Time is 11:16 a.m. We are now back on the record.
All right. And when we broke, you said that you were able to reconcile your autopsy findings with Angel Mallon's baby being alive up until 7 o'clock on the evening of May 21st, 2012. True?
Yes.
Okay. And did you speak with anybody about your deposition testimony over the break?
Mr. Wellington?
What did you speak about?
Just that I'm here to talk about the timing of death with regard to this. That's my perspective as a pathologist.
Okay.
And just affirming the fact that I am not an expert. I'm not an OB.
Okay. Were you aware that Mr. Wellington had an OB expert also?
Well, I did not know, but my assumption was that Dr. Bodie may be involved in some way, but I don't.
Not that he hadn't been identified.
I don't. Well, again, he was the person that asked
Gotcha.
me just some general questions. I assumed he was involved somehow, but that assumption may have been erroneous.
Gotcha. As far as the clinical data, though, you would defer to a clinician.
Yes.
In this case, either a labor and delivery nurse, true?
Yes.
Or an OBGYN, true?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 10, maybe? Can I get another
next one.
sheet of those? And this is just an excerpt from Dr. Gordon Brown Sherrod III, MD. He's an OBGYN, and he's going to be testifying at trial on behalf of Mr. Wellington's clients on the same side as you are, all right?
Okay.
Maybe.
10?
I don't know who's going to testify.
Well, this only OBGYN they've identified.
Okay.
And that time's long come and gone. Are you planning on identifying another?
Just don't know if I'll bring him to trial.
Gotcha. Let's see. He testified under oath. I guess it seems I keep getting asked the same question over and over again as far as could the baby been dead for 72 hours? And I disagree. I think the baby was alive at 10 o'clock the night before. Have you seen that testimony before
No.
today?
No.
All right. And according to the medical record, the labor and delivery nurse's notes indicate the baby was alive up until at least 9:30 that night. True?
Objection to the form.
Fetal heart, I'm sorry. Right, so 9:30 is when I voiced concern about the difference between the times.
Yes, ma'am, but according to the clinicians, here the labor and delivery nurses that were there, Angel Mallon's baby was alive at 9:30 at night on May
Okay.
21st, true?
Yes.
And is that also consistent with your autopsy findings?
Yes.
Okay. And according to Dr. Sherrod, he said the baby was alive up until 10 o'clock on the night of the 21st. That too is consistent with your autopsy findings, true?
Well, I guess I should. My autopsy findings are 18 to 24 hours. So, I believe you said the baby was delivered at 6 a.m.?
If you flip on over at
Is that correct?
6:20 the next morning, the baby was determined to be dead. You see that? Look on over at SFMCQS 0058. Oh,
I don't have that.
hold on. QS 00. 71. 6, it starts at 70 and 71. You see that?
7-1. Yes.
And 70. These are, just the way it's paginated, it continues on to 71.
Oh, okay.
Do you see the note at 6:20 in the morning? They're at SFMCQS 0070.
6:20?
Yes, ma'am?
Yes, so
Okay.
here. Yes.
What's on both pages, right? You see it on 70 and goes on to 71 here.
Oh,
and then-
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And it reads here, under fetal assessment, monitor mode, Doppler annotation, attempted to auscultate with Doppler, unsuccessful. True?
Yes,
Means at 6:20 in the morning, the labor and delivery nurses were unable to obtain a fetal heartbeat, right?
yes,
Okay. Goes on to say reported findings to charge nurse, 6:30, call page placed to provider, Dr. White notified of patient status, orders received. You see that?
yes,
So according to the medical record, the baby died sometime after 9:30 on the night of the 21st and sometime before 6:20 on the morning of the 22nd. True?
Yes.
Just before.
Is that right?
yes,
And your autopsy findings are consistent with that. True?
no. My autopsy findings are that the baby was deceased 18 to 24 hours before.
Okay. So that would put the timing of the baby's death, according to your autopsy report, from when to when?
So 6:30, no, 6:20. Okay, so that would be, help me with the math here. 6:20 a.m., 6:20, okay, so p.m. would be 24 hours.
Noon to 6 a.m.
About,
Oh,
It's a math issue. I mean, I'm not coaching the witness on how to deduct 24 hours from 6:20 a.m.
yeah, so about midnight,
midnight when?
20, what's the day before? 20, no, 6 p.m. the day before. Yeah. p.m. the day before, right? That's 24,
It's 12.
23, 22. Yeah, noon. Yeah, about noon.
So the baby...
On the 21st.
Okay, according to your autopsy, the baby died at noon on the 21st. True?
No, within that 18 to 24 hour window.
Okay, that's what I want to
So
know.
that's- right.
According to your autopsy, the baby died between when and when?
My interpretation of the autopsy report between 18 and 24 hours before. So 12 noon, the day before, until the full 24 hours prior. So 6 a.m. to 12 noon on the 21st.
Okay. So according to your autopsy report, the Angel Mullins baby died between, on May 21st, between 6 that morning and 12 that afternoon. True? Or 12 noon, right?
On the 21st, yes.
On the 21st, between 6 in the morning and noon. True?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So, according to your autopsy report, the very latest the baby could have been alive was 12 noon on the 21st. True?
At the very latest. At the very latest. That's what I'm saying.
What?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, based on the autopsy findings, yes.
All right. And so, so I want to do, for a moment, what you've earlier termed as reconciling. Okay?
Okay.
So, if you would pull out Dr. Page's report from 2:50 on the 21st. We're rolling, right?
Yes.
What I'd like for you to do is first reconcile for me your findings that the baby was already dead for at least 3 to 9 hours as of 2:50 on May 21st, 2012. True? The time of Dr. Page's report, right?
They don't reconcile entirely.
What?
So they don't reconcile entirely.
Well, but that as, I mean, here to render an expert opinion as
Sure.
to timing of death.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to say, well, I guess first, Dr. Page can't tell a live baby from a dead one, right?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, then how do you reconcile the fetal heart rate of 125 beats per minute at SFMC 0129 and a baby that's already dead?
I cannot reconcile that.
Okay.
All I can tell you is the autopsy findings. And that's based on the autopsy findings, taking into account the external examination, like I said, the skin slippage, and what we haven't talked about, the histologic findings found on the slides. Those suggest time of intrauterine fetal demise 18 to 24.
Sorry, that suggests what?
Time of intrauterine fetal demise 18 to 24 hours prior to delivery.
Okay. What I'd like for you to do now, doctor, is list for me all the publications, and again, this is treatises, textbooks, chapters in textbooks. We're not finished with that, but peer-reviewed articles, non-peer-reviewed articles, grand rounds, anything you know of in the whole solar system that stands for the proposition that you do an autopsy and you don't take into account the perinatologist obstetric ultrasound report, or let's see, 7 hours of observation by labor and delivery nurses. Any publication you can think of.
I'm not saying you don't take it into account.
Okay.
All of that is clinical information, but the clinical information stands separate from the pathology information that's gleaned from the autopsy examination. And as a pathologist, if I were writing the report, then I would take my findings, read the clinical information, and try to see if the information can be reconciled. But as we described earlier in your hypothetical situation, they don't always. And when they don't, then as a pathologist, my next step is to ask the question, well, why don't they reconcile? If I were doing the autopsy. So they don't always reconcile.
Okay. What I'd like for you to do for me now is reconcile your autopsy findings with Dr. Page's report and the record with the labor and delivery nurses observing a patient and the continuous electronic fetal monitoring for the several hours that we have in the certified copy of the hospital record. All right.
Well, as I said previously, I wasn't there. So I don't know how the monitors were placed on mom's belly. I don't know how the pulse ox was administered. I don't know any of that information. So all I can do is just read the report and take the information that's printed as it is. But again, that information stands separate from the assessment, from the pathology report. So I cannot make any any judgments additionally about what happened in the labor and delivery suite. That is what their assessment of the situation was at that time.
Objection moved to strike as non-responsive. Would you read back my question, please, ma'am?
And he may say that for the record. That'd be for the judge to determine later. You answer truthfully as you feel like you should.
Okay.
Okay, what I'd like for you to do for me now is reconcile your autopsy findings with Dr. Page's report and the record with the labor and delivery nurses observing a patient and the continuous electronic fetal monitoring for the several hours that we have in the certified copy of the hospital records.
I cannot reconcile them.
Okay. As a result, the baby could have died any time from 6 in the morning on the 21st up until when the baby's last indicated to be alive in the medical record at 9:30 on the night of the 21st. True?
Yes.
Okay. And you brought with you 3 of Dr. Janess's articles, true?
Yes.
Have you ever met Dr. Janess?
No.
Okay. Have you ever read his articles before this case?
Yes.
Okay. And do you consider his articles to be the seminal articles on the timing of an unborn baby's death?
Yes.
Okay. And those are still quoted in textbooks today, true?
Yes.
All right. And you relied on those, true?
Yes.
You read them, right?
Yes.
Okay. On a mark, actually, I guess these have already been marked. We'll mark them again. You guys want copies? You have copies of these, right? You want a copy?
Of the articles?
You got them, right?
Sure, we got it all.
We got it.
We got them. $11, right?
Yeah.
Yes. 11, 12. I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 11 to your deposition. I believe you brought a copy of that with you as well, right?
Yes.
You've seen that before, right?
Yes.
That's one of Dr. Janess's articles, right?
Yes.
It's one of 3 that were published in October 1992, true?
Yes.
And those are still in use today, right?
Yes.
They're quoted and cited in current autopsy pathology textbooks, true?
Yes.
And you relied on them in formulating your opinion here, true?
Yes.
All right. Starting with the article we've marked as Exhibit 11 to your deposition, it reads, estimating the time of death in stillborn fetuses. Histologic evaluation of fetal organs and autopsy study of 150 stillborns. You see that?
Yes.
And it's got, he starts with his objective and his methods, true?
Yes.
And under methods, it's hematoxylin and eosin slides.
Eosin.
What?
Eosin?
Eosin slides from autopsies of 150 stillborn fetuses with well-timed deaths. Did you see that?
Yes.
And you need to compare the data to well-timed deaths to know whether it's reliable or not, true?
Yes.
So and Dr. Janess started with well-timed deaths, true?
Yes.
And he goes on to read 10 features performed well as diagnostic tests. True? Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And some perform better than others, right?
Yes.
If you look on, still on page 575 of the article that's been marked as Exhibit 11, over in the right-hand column, the development of these histologic changes appeared to be accelerated by fetal high drops and delivery to autopsy interval exceeding 24 hours. Do you see that?
Yes,
There no high drops in this case, true?
that's correct.
What is high drops?
A markedly edematous baby.
A what?
Markedly edematous baby.
Not the case here, right?
No, the high drops was not described.
Okay. And now we did have a delivery to autopsy interval exceeding 24 hours, true?
Yes,
Which according to Dr. Genest would accelerate histologic changes, true?
they can, yes.
Well, it reads here, I don't see can, it reads to
It says
me,
appeared.
let me just finish, it's
Oh.
hard for her, that's all right. It reads, quote, "The development of these histologic changes appeared to be accelerated by fetal high drops and a delivery to autopsy interval exceeding 24 hours, true?"
Yes,
So that's the way it appeared to him, true?
yes.
If you flip on over to the next page, page 576, again, Dr. Genest's article. Right up here, during the interval from fetal death until delivery, the retained fetus undergoes maceration, progressive deterioration of external and internal gross features, true?
Yes,
And maceration means what?
maceration are external findings of death, of in utero death.
External findings are skin, right?
And other things, like for example, we talked about the sutures, the cranial sutures as well. But yes, so maceration means deterioration,
Including the skin.
including skin. Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Progressive deterioration of external, which would include skin,
Yes.
true? And internal gross features, true?
yes,
And softening and peeling of the skin, right?
yes,
And the death to autopsy interval here was more than 24 hours, true?
In our case, just object vague.
You may answer.
let's see, 6 a.m. Approximately, within
Within what? Go ahead.
approximately 24 hours
Okay.
or so. That's the interval that we're talking about.
Approximately 24 hours. Yes?
Yes,
I'd like for you to have a look at the, well, you weren't provided with an autopsy report?
yes, I was.
Let's see. I don't see it in your notebook.
It's at the front of our notebook,
Is it?
right there, behind our letter, James.
To me.
It's at the front of the notebook. First letter.
Say it again.
The letter, that's the first item.
Ah,
Okay. I'm
Sorry.
going to mark that, that's all right. It was 14. All right, and if you flip on
Thank you.
back to the first page of the, you see that? Exhibit 14 is a letter, and along with that is the autopsy report, right?
yes,
And it has up here at the very top, the, I'm having trouble reading upside down, but I'll point you right to it. Post-mortem hours, do you see that?
yes,
And post-mortem hours is the time from death to performance of the autopsy, true?
oh, I see, yes,
And here, that interval from fetal death until delivery was greater than 24 hours, true?
yes,
In fact, it was greater than twice 24 hours, true?
yes,
It was 56 hours, true?
yes,
Any reason to doubt what's in there?
no,
Okay. And did Dr. Genest use any cases in his article where the death autopsy interval exceeded 24 hours?
I thought he did, but I would have to double check the paper.
Take your time.
Can I do that? Okay. Yes.
Okay. You mind?
Page 576,
Uh-huh. Yep. Where,
under materials and methods,
yes, ma'am.
the second paragraph,
Yeah.
about midway down, it says among the 150 stillborn fetuses, the mean interval from confirmation of cardiac activity until documentation of death was 69.8 hours, parentheses, range 0 to 1008, close parentheses, semicolon. And then it goes on from there, and it breaks down various time ranges. He mentions fetuses who died 4 to 24 hours, those that died 24 to 48 hours, those that died between 48 hours and 7 days.
Okay. Thank you for that. If you would turn over to page 581 of that same article. Look over in the left column.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see that paragraph? It reads, in part, birth to autopsy interval exceeding 24 hours, data not shown available upon request. Do you see that?
I do not. Can you point to it for me?
Sure. Right here.
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware before now that Dr. Janess did not include in his article to make a determination birth to autopsy intervals exceeding 24 hours?
Check to the form.
Well, oh, death to autopsy. I'm sorry. Yes. I keep getting that confused with the time to delivery. But I see what you're
Say again,
saying.
please. Yep.
I keep confusing the birth to autopsy interval with the death to delivery interval.
Okay.
So that's
Totally
so.
right.
Yes.
You recall, and I can show it to you if you like, Dr. Janess talking about the autolysis and a number, the maceration we were talking about that
Right.
occurs from death until autopsy. True?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result, he didn't include in his findings any autopsies that were performed over 24 hours after the baby was known to have died. True?
Yes.
Okay. So, our case, where it was 56 hours from death to autopsy interval, would not have been included because the autopsy was so long after the baby had known to have
Because the
died.
autopsy was what?
Because-
Autopsy was what?
So long after the baby was known to have died, here 56 hours. True?
Yes.
Okay. Now back to page 576. I'm looking at that second full paragraph. Yes, ma'am, right here. It reads, gross changes are not reliable for accurately estimating the time of fetal death. Do you see that? Right here.
Thank you. I see the sense, yes.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
Well, this is just the background he's providing for the paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you repeat your question?
You didn't do an autopsy in this case, true?
No, I did not.
Okay. But you're here to offer an opinion as to the timing of the unborn baby's death, true?
Yes.
And that's the sole reason you're here,
Yes.
right? And in order to make the determination that you made, you relied on the changes in the baby's skin, true?
Yes.
And nothing else, not the liver, not the kidneys, not the placenta. I mean, those are all. It was solely on the perceived changes in the skin. True.
No.
Okay. What other than the skin? What else did you use to make your determination?
The histologic changes found from the organs, from the autopsy.
Which organs?
The lungs, liver, heart, adrenal gland, as well as the placenta.
Okay.
Those were all based on the slides.
Right, and all of your examination of the skin, the lungs, the liver, the heart, the adrenal glands, and the placenta all indicated to you that Angel Mylan's baby had been dead for at least 18 hours, true?
Yes.
Okay. At most 24 hours, true?
Yes.
We'll go through those, but first I want to go through Jeanette's article. All right. Back to at page 576. You see under material and methods, right?
Yes.
Okay. The mother's medical records were reviewed to identify fetuses with accurately timed deaths. Do you see that?
Yes.
In other words, in order to have reliable data in his article, he had to start with an accurately timed death. True?
Yes.
Okay. And he tells us how he timed deaths, right?
Yes.
He says, that is, cases in which clinical confirmation that the fetus was alive was followed shortly by clinical confirmation that the fetus had died. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And for clinical confirmation, what he used is for single gestations. That's what we have here, single gestation, right?
Yes.
Just one baby, right?
Yes.
It says clinical confirmation of fetal status included either fetal heart monitoring, which we have here, true?
Yes.
By Doppler or ultrasonography, true?
Yes.
That's what we have here, right?
Yes.
So the clinical confirmation in this case confirms that Angel Mylan's baby was alive up until 9:30 in the evening on May 21st, 2012, true?
Check to the form.
Yes.
Okay. And the clinical confirmation also, it confirms that the baby was no longer alive sometime after 6:20 the following morning, true?
Yes.
So the clinical confirmation referred to in this article for our case would be a time of death that occurred sometime after 9:30 on the evening of May 21st, 2012, and sometime before 6:20 in the morning on May 22nd, 2012, true?
Yes.
And according to Dr. Jeanette's article, that would be the starting point, true?
According to what? Yes.
Okay. It goes on to read, if you look at that next paragraph, well, yeah, see right here what says the time?
Yes.
The time of each fetal death was an interval determined clinically. Do you see that?
Yes.
And determined clinically, what that means in this case would be looking at Dr. Page's report and the hospital record, which you were not provided before today, which indicates the baby was alive up until 9:30 on the evening of May 21st, 2012. True?
Check to the form.
Yes.
And was determined to have been dead sometime between 6 and 7 the following morning. True?
Yes.
Okay. The interval was bounded by 2 points. You see that immediately beneath?
Yes.
And those 2 points were the last time that the fetus was confirmed to be alive. You see that?
Yes.
And the last time the fetus was confirmed to be alive in this case was 9:30 at night on May 21st, 2012. True?
Yes.
And the first time that the fetus was verified to be dead. See that?
Yes.
And that would have been between 6:20 and 7 the following morning, true?
Yes.
Okay. Is that lunch for, is that for you?
No, I'm not sure what's going on.
It goes on to read that, if you look at the bottom of 576 on the right side,
Okay.
all fetal autopsies were performed according to a perinatal autopsy protocol. Do you see that?
Yes.
What is a perinatal autopsy protocol?
It's the procedures that Dr. Gnest used
Right.
in his institution.
And he says, it reads, fetuses were kept refrigerated at 5 that's 5 degrees Celsius until autopsy, right?
Yes.
That's not the case here, right? In our case.
Object to the form.
I don't know.
Well, let's look at what you do have. And I just want to, you get this one. This is what you were provided with the medical record, right?
Yes.
This stuff right here, right?
Yes.
Okay. And according to one of those documents, let's see, I think you have it here. You don't. Yeah, actually you do. SFMC, you get that, BGM 0031. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And according to, and that's part of the NICU flow sheet, right?
Yes.
And that starts at 7:35 on the morning of the 22nd, right?
Yes.
And it goes until, and that was, the baby was born sometime around 7 o'clock on the morning of the 22nd, true?
Yes.
And it goes until 1900, that's 7 in the evening on May 21st, 2012, true?
Yes.
And according to this NICU flow sheet, which is SFMC BGM 0031, the baby was not refrigerated at 5 degrees Celsius until autopsy, true?
Object to the form.
It says at 7 p.m. taken to morgue. I'm assuming that at 7 p.m. the baby was refrigerated.
Assume, and that's
It says placed in top drawer with face sheet.
right.
So I'm
And-
assuming that's a refrigerated drawer.
Okay, so it was, the baby was first refrigerated, according to the medical record, at 7 p.m. on the 22nd, true?
Yes.
And that's 12 hours after the baby was born, true?
Yes.
So, of the 56 hours from death to autopsy, 12 hours of that was spent at room temperature, true?
Yes.
That too does not comport with Gnest's article about keeping the fetus refrigerated at 5 degrees Celsius until autopsy, true?
Yes.
Dr. Gnest would not have taken the findings from this autopsy and included them in his study, true?
True.
Because according to his article, he didn't find them reliable, true?
Yes.
And that's because the death autopsy interval was 56 hours, true?
More than 24 hours. Yes.
It was more than twice 24 hours, true?
Yes.
And also, rather than kept at 5 degrees Celsius until autopsy, the baby, of those 56 hours, 12 of those was spent wrapped in a blanket at room temperature, true?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Now, if you look at 577, go. What time is it here? Noon? Look on over at do you see page 578 of the same article, Exhibit 11?
Yes.
To the top left. It reads, death to delivery intervals less than 2 hours, at least 2 hours, at least 4 hours, at least 6 hours, at least 8 hours, at least 12 hours, at least 18 hours, at least 24 hours. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, anything over than that, it goes on 36, 48, 72. We wouldn't be considering those here because even you agree that the death was within 24 hours of roughly
Delivery.
7 o'clock, delivery. So that would have been after 6:20, right?
Yes.
You believe that the death occurred within 24 hours of delivery, true?
Yes.
And you could refine that further and say it was between 18 and 24 hours, true?
Yes.
But not less than 18 hours, true?
Yes.
Okay. Which, I mean, you agree that means that, according to your expert opinion, Dr. Page's report that found the baby alive is wrong, right?
No.
Well, you
No.
can't have a baby can't be dead and alive at the same time, can it?
No, I know that, but my assessment is based on the pathology, the autopsy report, and the slides that correspond with that.
Yes, ma'am, but to do that, you have to take into account the clinical findings, right?
Yes. You put it all together, but they don't necessarily have to reconcile. So, based on what I have, I would say the changes are consistent with the death 18 to 24 hours prior.
Yes, ma'am. They're also consistent with a death 8 hours prior.
Check the form.
You may answer.
At least 8 hours?
Look, you got,
It's-
that wasn't cute.
It's vague.
Well-
I'm not trying to be cute.
Read my
Object-
question back,
question's
please, ma'am.
vague.
They're also consistent with the death 8 hours prior.
True.
Based on the autopsy findings, no. The autopsy findings suggest an interval longer than that.
Yes, ma'am, I heard you testify to that. Based on the clinical record, the baby was very much alive up until 9:30 on the evening of the 21st, true?
Yes.
Now, what we're talking about now is reconciling your autopsy finding that said the baby was already dead at 9:30 on the evening of the 21st, with the medical record that says the baby was alive at 9:30 on the night of the 21st. What I'd like for you to do is reconcile those.
I'm not sure that I can.
Okay.
Just like Dr. Guinness says in his paper, and just like I've said also, that when the two don't reconcile, then the next question is to ask why. Are there other factors at play here? Other factors that, number one, could give the clinicians a false impression of there being a heart rate during the interval that's reported, as well as factors that may suggest an acceleration of the autolytic process.
The what process?
Autolytic process. So both of those things would have to be taken into account because they don't reconcile
Okay. But that's,
in this case.
But that's what you were hired to do, come up with a time of death, right?
Yes.
So you've got to reconcile them, right? That's part of your,
No, sometimes they
Expertise.
don't.
okay.
Sometimes they don't. And like I say, when they don't, my job is to state that they don't and then try to figure out why.
Okay.
And sometimes, as a pathologist, sometimes I cannot come to a final reconciliation. Sometimes, as a pathologist, we just have to state the findings that we have and leave it at that.
Okay.
Because, as Dr. Ganesh says, and as he puts in the paper, number one, these are all ranges, right, from this point to this point, these X many hours. There is no way to pinpoint an exact time just based on the autopsy report, and there are other mitigating factors involved. So sometimes as a pathologist, I mean, we say we have the final word, but all we can do is provide the information that we have based on our medical expertise. And that's all I can do in this case.
According to Dr. Janess' article, the clinical confirmation that he would be looking at in this case would be the last known fetal heart rate, right?
Yes.
Which is at 9:30 on the evening of the 21st, true?
Yes.
And the first time that clinical confirmation that there was no heart rate, which was at 6:20 the following morning, true?
Yes.
And that the death occurred between 9:30 on the 21st and 6:20 on the 22nd, true?
According to the clinical notes, yes.
Yeah. And you can't reconcile the clinical notes with your autopsy findings, true?
No.
And one reason you may not be able to do that are what are called autolytic changes, right?
Yes.
And autolytic changes occur when you've got a death to autopsy interval that's longer than 24 hours, true?
Yes.
Particularly when the baby hasn't been refrigerated for that time, true?
Yes.
And here the death to autopsy and delivery to autopsy interval is over twice that. It's 56 hours, true?
Yes.
And 12 of those hours this baby spent at room temperature, true?
Yes.
And might that explain why the autopsy, your findings vary from the clinical confirmation of a baby being alive at 9:30 on the evening of the 21st?
That could contribute to it, yes.
Okay. Now, have you ever heard of Enid Gilbert Barness?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, she's a neat woman. Have you ever met her?
I've seen her, but
Okay.
I have never met her.
You've seen her in what?
In a conference.
Okay,
I've
and you,
seen her.
where she was a lecturer and you were a student, is that right? Or she was a speaker and you were an attendee?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
You're familiar with her Handbook of Pediatric Autopsy Pathology,
Yes.
true? That's, some would call that the Bible or the gold standard in your line of work, true?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to mark just a page of that as Exhibit 15 to your deposition. All right? That's okay. We'll get it straightened out.
Thank you.
So you look at Exhibit 15, and this is Enid Gilbert Barness, Handbook of Pediatric Autopsy Pathology, the second edition. And if you turn on over to page 37, it's got the stillborn autopsy, right?
Yes.
And this is Dr. Gilbert Barness's writing on stillborn autopsy, right?
Yes.
And it reads here, I'd like to refer you to the very first sentence under the stillborn autopsy under Gilbert Barness, Dr. Gilbert Barness's textbook, a handbook of pediatric autopsy pathology, all right?
Yes.
It reads, on external examination, the degree of maceration should be assessed and compared with the clinical history of the last known fetal movements and/or heartbeat. You see that?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It means the pathologic findings should be compared with the clinical findings.
Okay. So if we're comparing the pathologic findings or your findings to the clinical findings, the clinical history in this case, and a known heartbeat at 9:30 in the evening, you would agree that you would defer to the clinicians and the perinatologist that the baby was alive after your pathology findings said the baby was already dead. True?
I wouldn't necessarily defer. Again, I would try to reconcile the two,
Okay.
and if I couldn't reconcile, try to figure out why they don't reconcile.
So you were unable to reconcile them, and the only explanation you could give me earlier was autolytic changes. Is that right?
No, check with the form.
Autolysis helps to inform the time of death, but also other things that were mentioned. The temperature that the baby was kept at, et cetera. All of those things factor in.
Well, the temperature this baby was kept
Right.
at would actually
And the
accelerate the autolysis, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Also, if a baby was born, which I don't think I mentioned, prematurely,
This baby wasn't born prematurely, right?
well, just prior. But no, that would not necessarily be applicable in this case, no. But you
okay,
said,
I'm
I thought
just
you said
talking-
it in general.
No, ma'am, I'm talking about in this case.
Okay.
Other than autolytic changes, what would explain the difference in your autopsy findings and the, as Dr. Gilbert Barnes put it, the clinical history of the last known fetal movements and/or heartbeat,
Sure, so the things that we did discuss, the autolysis,
right?
the degree of autolysis, due to the preservation of the body,
Yes, ma'am.
certainly. That's all I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
But-
So the fact that the delivery to autopsy was 56 hours as opposed to less
Yes.
than 24 hours, and the fact that of those 56 hours, the baby was kept at room temperature for 12 of those hours, could explain the difference in your findings in the clinical history here. True?
Yes, it
Okay.
could.
And is that how you would reconcile those?
That could be an explanation.
Okay. What other explanations can you come up with?
I can't think of anything
Okay.
at the moment. I'm just,
All right. You agree with Dr. Gilbert Barnes that, I'm sorry, did I hit you?
no, that wasn't me.
Okay. You agree with Dr. Gilbert Barnes that you most assuredly have to compare the maceration with the clinical history of the last known fetal movements and/or heartbeat, true?
Yes.
Now, I think you called him Andy, is that right? Did you talk to Andy about his...
Andrew.
Andrew, I'm sorry.
Andrew.
That's right. Well, I'm seeing this on YouTube. 16, right?
I'm not sure.
Is that right?
This
What is that one?
Sorry, I always do it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write them out. I hate to waste your stickers, but I'm going to mark at least 3.
I write them out so I don't mess them up.
Yeah, I do too. I've also had a court reporter, hand her back like a sheet of marked ones and...
I have way too many important things to
I
get
hope
busy
so.
over that kind of crap.
Show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 16 to your deposition. This is
Thank you.
Dr. Andrew J. Connolly's textbook, true?
Yes.
It's called Autopsy Pathology, a Manual and Atlas, right?
Yes.
And right here on page 56, he includes findings from Dr. Genest articles, true?
Yes.
And he has some comments regarding external examination too. Some indication of the degree of autolysis should be given to frame the context of the postmortem examination. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what Andy's talking about here, Dr. Connolly, is since you've got a a delivery to autopsy interval of 56 hours, and 12 of those 56 hours, the baby was kept at room temperature. That should be considered, and when reconciling or trying to explain all these clinical findings that say the baby was very much alive up until 9:30 on May 21st. True?
Yes.
Okay. I tell you, is there, what time is it here? 1:15?
It's like 12,
12:10.
Let's go off the record for a second.
Okay.
I just don't want to waste the video.
Time is 12:12 p.m. We are now off the record.